Casa De Klub. I like that. Nice.
Hey, we like that too, coming at you, something so brand new. We in a new stew, and the vibe so true, kinda like a Zion, he had to go grab two. He with that Arizona Wildcat, in that upside down hat, and how many have I had staying with me? Round two. It's the price of admission on the Casa
Tampa.
De Klub.
Good for you.
Mm-hmm. Spent the summertime up in Boston. Come back down here for the school year.
Good for you, man. How you feel?
But
You doing good?
yeah, just trying to figure out the new routine of life.
Me,
I think
me trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. It's
well, I'm with you. I think I'm around a little bit more than Amanda and the kids would like me to be sometimes. But
how's it going, Tito? It's nice to meet you.
Tyler, what's going on, man?
How are you?
You're a Wildcat, huh?
I'm a Wildcat. Yeah. I got to start off by saying thank you for everything you've done for our program.
My
It was
pleasure.
we had the best hitting facility in the country thanks to you. So it was awesome going in there every day.
Well, thanks. They did a lot for me. I wouldn't have been anywhere without them. So
Love that. Well, we'll get you a little intro because we do it for everyone. Not that you need an intro, but today we've got 2-time world champ, 3-time manager of the year. Can't forget Golden Spikes winner, Arizona Wildcat, Terry Francona. Appreciate you coming on.
oh, guys, it's my pleasure.
What are you doing right now in the Dirty T? Just holding the fort down. How's Tucson treating you? What are you up to these days?
You know, I'm trying to. I was telling I was laughing with Klubs before. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up
Yeah.
because for the last 44 years, I've had a pretty strict regiment where it's wake up, we're going to win a game, or figure out how we're going to win a game, see what happens, and then do it all over again the next day. So all of a sudden you wake up and your biggest decision is, am I going to have a second cup of coffee? And I think I was ready for that, but it's different. So there's kind of a fine line. You go from being so busy to having a ton of time. So it's a little bit of an adjustment. I've played a ton of golf, which is my passion. You'd think with playing that much I'd get better. That's not necessarily the case.
still got the big slice going.
Klubs, it's getting bigger, and that box.
Where are you? What courses you hitting in Tucson? What are your favorite spots?
Well, I belong to Tucson Country Club, which is an older course out east, and then I also play at La Paloma, which is right where I live. So, and La Paloma is too hard for me. It's hilly, and as I'm getting older, it's a little too hard. But I'm like America's guest right now. I play anywhere.
It's not a bad gig.
We go out to Dove Mountain or Tucson National and play, and just like I said, I wish I was getting better, but it's not for lack of trying.
Yeah, all those Arizona courses they give me a lot of trouble. I need to bring around 2 balls per hole to be able to sustain 18 holes on those desert courses. They're impossible.
Well, I don't know about that. I've seen you. You hit it pretty good. It's okay when you hit it as far as you do and lose them. It's not so good when you hit it 180 yards and lose them.
What about the game? How much are you paying attention to baseball? Keeping up with things that are going on.
It's funny. I probably watch more baseball now than I did the last 7 or 8 years. It got to a point where the only baseball I was really watching was maybe the team we were going to play next. And now, other than, keeping an eye on Cleveland, I'll look and see what game is maybe tied in the 8th or 9th inning, and I'll flick it on and watch the last inning. And I kind of enjoy that. And I, again, there's, throughout the years, you have so many people that you've grown close to. Like, I keep an eye on Cassie in Tampa and Alex in Boston. And there's guys, all over the league, Rocco in Minnesota, that you just want to make sure they're doing okay. So you kind of keep tabs on them.
Aside from that, just love of the game. What are you doing within the game of baseball right now to fill that void of, waking up every day trying to win a ball game?
That's the I think technically I'm a consultant to the Guardians. I'm not really sure what I'm consulting. Uh, Maybe that was just their way of kind of giving me a way of easing out of the game. I do. There's going to come a point where I want to become involved. I just need to figure out how much, and that's a tough thing to answer. Um, I love the. I didn't retire because I didn't love the game. I retired because things that I thought you had to do to be successful were becoming harder and harder. So to be that, and along with my health, that didn't help. So it doesn't mean I want to just rid myself of the game. I just got to figure out how busy I want to be.
Yeah, the game misses seeing Tito in the dugout. Would you, if you got back into the game, would you want to be on the field or something in the front office?
Klub, and that's guys, that's a good question. Like my passion is probably in the minor leagues and player development, but again, if you're in, you kind of have to be all in. And I might be at an age where that's just not reasonable. So, I see, and Klubs, you've been around me long enough to know there's a way I think you need to play the game. And so often nowadays I don't see that and it bothers me. But I just don't know if I'm all in enough to do that, from for 12 months a year, all year round, because that's what it takes to be successful.
Yeah, it's not just from February through the end of the season, especially
Right.
in the role of a manager or player development. That's 365 days a year.
Right. And I just don't know if my body or my heart is into it that much. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. And again, I think about that every day because, the one thing I do miss is I miss the people. Like, I probably had more fun than you're supposed to. And I miss that part of it. Like you get on the plane after a series and win, lose, or draw, you got your guys there and you're either commiserating together, you're laughing, you're teasing. I miss that part of it.
Tito, I want to take you back 40 some years now. I had the privilege of playing in Omaha, but I want to hear what it was like winning at Rosenblatt and playing for the legendary Jerry Kindle and College World Series MVP. Were you the big man on campus there in Tucson?
I don't think I was a big man anywhere. I'll tell you what, my folks thought it would be a really good idea for me to play for Jerry Kindle because I was a typical 18-year-old. I wanted to see everything, do everything, probably too much. And they knew he'd keep his thumb on me, and he did. You couldn't play for a better college coach. I mean, he taught us to play the game the right way. He made us not only respect the game, but respect the people in the game, which is a good lesson. And then you mentioned Omaha. It was Rosenblatt. It's not that gorgeous new stadium they have there now, but anytime you can be on the dog pile and say your team is the best. I don't care if it's college, A ball, double A, the major leagues. It's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine what that would be like. Did you guys tear dirt bags up at all on the off days or no? Was that a staple back in your day?
Dirt bags was there. There was actually a place, and it was an old church they turned into a bar, and it burned down. And I about burned down with it because I went there too much and loved it. And obviously, I love Tucson because I still live here. It's just I like the idea that everything revolves around the university. So
Yeah.
the town doesn't have maybe the snarkiness of a professional town, and I really like that about it.
Were you referring to the Wildcat House?
Oh boy, I've been there. No, Dooley's was a church that they turned it into a bar, and no, the Wildcat House. I've spent too many hours there to bring back some pretty good memories, but I'm starting to get a headache.
Yeah, Chip told us a lot of stories about the Wildcat House days, but if you're wondering what the Arizona baseball team does on the off days, it's still dirtbags 40 years later.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it is wild.
That's cool, though.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's a
I
cool
drive by
spot.
probably twice a week.
All right, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. 20 years is coming up soon. 2004 World Champions with the Red Sox. You want to start talking about the World Series? You want to talk about the ALCS first?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys played in 2 World Series in 2004. I mean, that had to feel like the World Series going up against the Yankees. Well, as a manager, you guys are down 3-0. How do you even rally the troops? I mean, talking to Klub, it seems like you didn't really have to say much to command the room.
I think as a manager, you're always trying to kind of take the temperature of your team. And, I thought, I can't sit here and say I knew we were going to come back and win. That's kind of insane. It's hard to win 4 games in a row against anybody, let alone the Yankees. But I did know that if we changed things, and I mean change the lineup, change the way we acted, that it wasn't going to work. We had to stay true to who we were. And so that's what we did. And man, our guys, we kind of had that 1 inning at a time mentality, and it got really fun. My biggest worry was because we were down 0-3, if we made a mistake, we were going to have to go home. But nobody made a mistake. And it was probably 4 of the funnest baseball days of my life.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, I just, the little things, like what kind of balls does it take for you as a manager when you guys are down 4-3 in the ninth, down 3-0 in the series? You put Dave Roberts in there. What are you saying to him? I mean, I guess at that point you have nothing to lose, but you pull him down in the tunnel and you just let him know, hey, you're going in there to steal a bag.
When you say it like that now, I get nervous. It's just, at the time, I actually, and I mean this, I was having I was so into it because we're down in the tunnel and we're walking through it, and it's like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Well, I mean, it was Mariano Rivera on the mound. That rarely happens. But Klubs, you've been through it. You know you're going to figure out a way to win, maybe sometimes until you don't. And we walked through it, and I just wanted Davey to have the most confidence he could when he left the dugout, because the week before we had been in Anaheim and he had done the same thing, but he couldn't get a jump and he didn't go. And I wanted to make, trying to get 3 or 4 hits off of Mariano's not a good recipe to try to win. So I knew we had to try to steal a base, and I wanted him to feel good about it when he was leaving the dugout.
What do you say to him to make him feel confident in that situation?
All I did was I winked at him. And that was like my way of saying, go ahead, big boy, take it. And he smiled. And if you watch the highlights, I think they threw over 3 times. And on the 3rd time they threw over, you could see his face. He had a little grin, like he was able to get maybe another half step just because of that. And it probably saved the day.
And then, that ties the game. David Ortiz hits a walk-off. Next day, winning extras again. And then we get to game 6, and maybe the players didn't have a full understanding, but did you and the front office fully understand what you were dealing with Schilling and his ankle?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I sat him down in my office because I knew the team doctor had done this procedure on a cadaver. And he said it worked. Well, I mean, so I sat Schill down and I said, Schill, I love the fact that you want to pitch so bad. I said, but I'm worried that if, you want to continue to pitch after this might hurt your career. And he looked at me and goes, Tito, I've been waiting to pitch this game my whole life. And you know what? I had so much confidence. It's a lot like with Klubs. You have so much confidence. He had no business being out there. And I never for a moment thought he wouldn't get it done. And that probably wasn't fair, but that's just how much confidence I had in him and how much trust, because he shouldn't have been out there.
Was there a point where you thought about taking him out as that sock started to get more and more red?
No, I was actually trying to stay away from him and not notice it, because pretty good. And, we had gone through our bullpen so much. And I knew Shield, because again, I'd been with him in Philly and, I'd been with him a lot. I knew he would find a way to let me know if he needed out of that game. He was really good about that. You like all good pitchers, you go to the mound, they don't want to come out. And I respect that. But if he was hurting or out of gas, he'd have nodded, he'd have looked at me, and and you could tell when he came off the mound in the sixth, he was done.
So there was no conversation going on between you two throughout that game. You're just letting him do his thing.
That's understanding your guys, though.
If anybody been around Shield, the day he pitches, you don't talk. You don't. If you're talking to him the day he pitches, he's not pitching the way he's supposed to.
After that game, you must have felt like there's no way you guys were going to lose that game 7.
There's just a small part of you though that thinks. We started out the game 7 and we got a base hit and they executed a cutoff really well and they threw Johnny Damon out at the plate. And for like one quick second, I was like, oh no, like we didn't come this far. But man, our offense we got, they were rolling. I think Johnny hit the grand slam and we just kept adding on and it was fun because it was so chaotic there. The old Yankee Stadium, man. I mean, it had so much personality. And, I don't think a little asbestos ever going to really hurt anybody, but, they're throwing stuff on the field. And I mean, I'm not saying that's the way baseball should be, but to live through that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how that was kind of the World Series. It reminds me of, not that I was alive, but big hockey fan, the 1980 when the USA beat the Soviet Union. That wasn't the gold medal game. How do you get the boys to settle down for that World Series and realize you guys still haven't won anything?
That's interesting because your biggest worry is, okay, did we leave it all out there? And is there anything left? And we were on a roll. I mean, we were just on a roll. And it just, as a manager, you kind of worry about everything. You're confident, but you also have to try to stay ahead of, okay, what could go wrong? And that's back when, they didn't have the DH in the National League town. So Ortiz had to play first. So I was worried about that. He was flawless. I mean, everything just kind of clicked. We actually, if you go back and look at that season, I want to say, I think from like August 1st or maybe August 10th on, I mean, we were like 38-5 or something. And then we swept the Angels, right out of and they were good. We just had those first 3 games against the Yankees that before we could even look up, we're down 3-0 and it almost cost us a great year.
Yeah, you go on to be the first manager to win those eight World Series games in a row. Did you think you were ever going to lose a World Series game after 07? What was it? 8-0? 2 sweeps?
You know what, Klubs? I found out the hard way. You can lose some too.
You can lose them quick. Yeah.
And I knew in 16, as excited as I was that we were up 3-1, and you probably remember this better than anybody, we had asked so much of our pitching that I knew that series wasn't over. I mean, we had everybody going on 3 days rest and everybody was on fumes. And again, I'd rather be up 3-1, but I knew that wasn't over by a long shot.
Yeah, it wasn't an ideal blueprint to get to that point.
But I'll tell you what, that's part of what made that so fun is we did it with the guys we did it with, Tomlin and you and everybody giving everything they have. I remember going home at night, seeing Andrew Miller in the training room, and he'd be like, "I'd be ready to pitch tomorrow." And I'm like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of makes, for me, pride won out over disappointment.
You broke the curse of the Bambino. Did you think you were going to be on the right side of the Cubs' history? They snapped their streak. You're part of another World Series game that meant a lot in baseball history. What was that Game 7 like? Obviously, Kluber had the start. You must have felt pretty confident.
Always. And again, we were asking a lot. We had leaned on Klubs the entire year, the entire playoff run, and he's going on short rest. And that's, for a manager, that's the hardest thing to do is to know when to pull a pitcher, because and Klubs has been around me long enough. You want to let your starter work through some issues, especially good ones. But in a when a do or die game, it's hard to get the right the right time to get a guy out, because taking a guy out too soon can be just as bad as taking him out too late.
When'd you come out?
Fifth inning.
Fifth
Yeah.
inning?
Yeah, gave a leadoff double to Baez, right?
Yeah. No, his arm slot was getting lower and lower, and I just there's so much belief in guys, though, that you're like, he'll figure it out. I always felt that way about the guys you trust. You're like, he'll figure it out.
What was the score when you came out?
4-2.
Yeah, we were down
4-2.
Do you even exchange words there at the mound when you take him out? You just give him the pat on the ass. Good job.
I think I just said thank you, because to me, what he had given, regardless of what the score was, what the results were, I knew what he had gone through to be out there and to give what he did. I was so damn proud of him that, that's not really the time you can do that, but that's how I felt.
What'd that clubhouse look like for you guys in that rain delay? It was a quick one, no?
It was quick. What was it?
It was quick, yeah.
And
it wasn't very long at all.
It really wasn't. And you know what? I hear all the the things about the Cubs having a team meeting and everything. I thought we had the perfect guy on the mound at the time. It was Brian Shaw. Nothing bothered him.
Nothing.
And they came out and beat us. And I think lesser teams, because when Rajay hit that home run, man, that place was going bananas. And I think lesser than the Cubs would have lost. And I give them a lot of credit because they came out and beat us.
Yep.
What would you say, watching the game now, where baseball is, what's the biggest difference and where we're at with the game as opposed to the early 2000s with your Red Sox days?
I'm probably going to make myself sound old, but there seems to be so much celebrating before the play's over. I mean, I'm okay with guys like now, somebody hits a home run and they put a sport coat on or whatever, they put something on their head. I'm actually okay with all that. I just, the game is just beginning when you leave the batter's box. Like, you don't hit a ball and, get a single and the guy's scoring and you're supposed to be going to second and you're clapping and you're waving to the dugout. Play the game right. And then if there's a reason to celebrate, but don't, I think we're getting mixed up in that, sometimes baseball players refer to themselves as entertainers. We're baseball players. If you play the game right, it's entertaining.
For sure.
So you're not a fan of the Savannah Bananas?
I actually love the Savannah Bananas, but I don't know if I want to try to win with them. Yeah,
it's a different game.
Yeah, so if the Savannah Bananas wanted Terry Francona to manage a ball game, you don't know if he could do it.
Well, you know what, my grandkids would kill me if I didn't do it because they think it's the greatest thing in the world. I just, again, I'm probably showing my age, and I know you have to make changes as you go. I just don't think you sacrifice your principles, and I think there's a way to play the game and there's a way to not play the game.
It seems like Cleveland was always that blue collar mentality. Like, you guys never really had dudes that were all into the rah-rah stuff.
And I was okay with that. Again, I think as a manager, you take your team and you try to make them the best they can be and try not to turn them into something they're not. Like the 04 team in Boston, they were loud and, everybody, knows, the history there. And then the 07 team that won, it was younger and quieter and more businesslike, and that was fine because if they'd have tried to be like the 04 team, they couldn't have pulled it off and it wouldn't have worked. So you just take who you have and you try to play to their strengths. Like if you have guys that hit home runs, let them try to hit home runs. If you have guys that can run, let them run. You just, again, try to get the best out of you guys you have.
I would say that might be the biggest difference to me is that maybe it's getting away from that now, but I think for a point in time is trying to get every player to fit a certain mold, whether it be getting every player to lift or every hitter to lift, or every pitcher to pitch at the top of the zone. But I feel like now maybe it's evened out and guys know what they're good at. So now it's about doing the best you can at what you do really well.
I think there's a lot of ways to be good, Klubs, and you know, trying to paint everybody into the same brush, man. I don't think that works. You know, you had your strengths and you knew what you wanted to do. Well, the next guy might not be able to do that. Josh Tomlin, he might not be able to pitch like you, but that doesn't mean he can't be successful. And again, you try to maximize what guys do well and try to minimize what they don't do so well, and then go get them.
Terry, what do you think of all the NIL, all the money changes in the college landscape?
Oh man, you guys are turning me into my dad today. I was made a comment a couple of weeks ago, and I looked at someone. I said, "Yeah, I finally turned into my dad." I don't like it, and you know, I love the idea. I mean, Tyler, you know, I'm the biggest Arizona fan there is. Baseball, basketball. And I'm glad that guys, I mean, they should be able to go to dinner and, you know, things like that. But I think it's getting out of hand. It's like free agency. And I'm afraid, like, you know, if a coach yells at a player, you know, he's going to transfer. I mean, you turn on one of these football games and you look at a guy and this is his fourth school. I mean, this is college. There's got to be something to be said for going to school, being able to get an education, and also competing at the highest level. It's you know what? I don't have the answer, but I don't think this is sustainable what they're doing now.
Seems like guys can't coach the same, like you were saying. It's what ran Saban out, and you know, you yell at a guy, you get on too much, you can just transfer.
I think you just brought up the perfect example. When you see Saban step down, and I don't know him, I've never spoken to him, I guarantee you it has something to do with the way the game is evolving, and he didn't want any part of it.
Makes it a lot harder to hold guys accountable if they can just up and leave.
Well,
No, and they don't get their way.
Well, you're not kidding, man. I mean, shoot. You know, there's got to, you know, again, you work hard to earn that trust where you can say things to people that sometimes maybe they don't want to hear. But when you're 18 or 19 years old and you ruffle somebody's feathers and somebody's offering you money, I get it, man. I just don't, like I said, it may be sustainable for about 4 or 5 schools, but not for the other 200.
You think Andy Lopez could have coached in the NIL days?
I know I just don't know how. And I know Arizona is trying to fight through this right now. Like how can we keep up with the Joneses? Because Tucson's not, you know, the U of A is not Alabama. It's not LSU. It's not Penn State. And these are the types of schools that are kind of struggling. And like I said, I don't think it's sustainable. So somehow they're going to have to change it. I just don't know how they're going to do it.
All right, you talk about having the trust to have those difficult conversations. What was the first difficult conversation you had to have with the most famous athlete in the world when you were his manager in Birmingham? And how'd you approach that one?
Talking about Michael Jordan.
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you a funny one. You know, he got assigned to our work group with about 5 days left in spring training. So you remember Klubs in the minor leagues, you know, they have the clover leaf and field 1, field 2. So we're the AA team. We're on field 3. And when he would come up to hit, everybody would kind of congregate over towards our field. So there might be 50, 60 people, you know, over there, you know, guys that are running the minor leagues to a couple fans that is, well, I'm coaching third, and he popped up to short and didn't run. And when it happened, everybody's head, you could see, went right to me, like, what to do? And I'm like, oh shit, you know. So, you know, when you come in and out of the dugout, you know, they have that little gate there. So as he's going out to go to right field, I'm coming in from coaching third. And as we passed, I looked, you know, and I kind of had to look up to him. And I said, hey, big boy, just tell me, are you going to do that every time? And he looked at me and he said, never again. And I'll tell you what, he was a pleasure. It shouldn't be shocking that he could be so good at what he did. You can't be that good without being smart, without being coachable. And he was all that stuff, man. You tell him something once and it was done.
What was that like coming off 3 titles in a row? You've got, probably the best athlete in the world coming into your clubhouse. What are you guys thinking?
Well, the thing that helped me was, and you just said it, he's coming into our clubhouse. Like there's no place in the world that I'm more comfortable than in a baseball clubhouse. I grew up in a clubhouse. It's all I've ever done. If you'd have put me in an NBA locker room, I'd have probably been terrified. But he was on our turf and he was eager to learn. And so, it worked because you had to be patient with him because he really didn't know that much about the game. But he was so respectful. That was the first thing I said to him. I said, Michael, you got to be respectful of what the guys are doing here. Like I sat him down and explained to him that the guys in AA, they had been playing 3 or 4 years. I kind of explained to him like how much money they weren't making. And he was so good about that. And I don't know, he handled the whole thing so well that it was kind of fashionable to be critical of him for playing. And I really, really wanted to be protective of him because he was just so respectful of the game.
I can't imagine he lived a normal minor league life, though.
Not for 1 year. The funny story is, he asked me that first day, he goes, hey, do we fly? And I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, oh, man, we bus everywhere, and it's an old bus, and it breaks down. And he said, well, what if I could get us a good bus? Now my wheels are spinning. I'm like, well, the next day there's 4 buses up in the parking lot. And he's all proud and everything. So we go on the first bus, and he goes, what do you think? And I'm like, well, it'd be good for me, you, and the 3 coaches. What about the 25 other guys? It was like a touring bus for a band. So we ended up getting a bus. It looked like the Partridge Family bus. You guys probably are too young to even know what that is. But it was painted kind of all bright colors. He signed the door, so they called it the Jordan Cruiser. And the good thing for me was it was new, so it didn't stink and it didn't break down very often, but it wasn't even the best bus in the league. But they would, because he signed the door, when we weren't using it, they would take it on those junkets up to Tunica, Mississippi, and they made a killing.
It's good business.
So you guys had MJ's transportation services for a year down there in Birmingham.
And I'll tell you what, I went from playing public golf courses to the best courses in the world for 1 year. And I took advantage of it. And the very next year, we were back on the public courses.
Back to
When did he decide to hang him up? When was the transition back into basketball? Did you think he had a shot at making the MLB?
I get asked that all the time, and my answer was, I don't think it would be fair until he had about 1,000 at bats to give a qualified answer. But I did find out if you told him no, he would find a way to make the answer be yes. And I believe that. Like, he'd have found a way. That was the way he was built. He came to spring training, then, he went to the fall league after the year and did pretty well. Came to spring training, and there was a lockout going on. And they wanted him to cross the line. And I remember we were sitting down and he said, of all people, I can't do that. And I think it made it easier for him to go back to, I think he was probably wavering anyway, and that made it really easy for him to go back.
Yeah, that would have been disaster if he would have done that.
He knew it.
Yeah.
You still talk to him?
I text with him more. I saw the way he lived his life. And by that, I mean how many people wanted to get at him.
Yeah.
So, when something funny happens, I'll get a text from him or something. Like during our World Series run clubs, he was texting me almost every night. But I don't call just because I know how busy it is. But if something funny happens, I'll send him a note.
He takes people's money on the golf course, right? Just a thief.
I'll tell you what, I mean, he likes to, get the juices going, but, and at the time, I think I was making $28,000 a year, so I had to be a little careful, but I think I won more than I lost only because he doesn't think he can ever lose. So, I'd
Yeah,
take my loss some days, but on the days when he's losing, you could beat him up a little bit.
Makes sense.
yeah, when you're Michael Jordan, you can just build your own golf course that caters to you, and then you don't lose.
Yeah, have you played there yet?
No, he called me. This was last year. He goes, and I told him I had my shoulder done, and he goes, "Hey, come on down when you're ready, man." And he goes, "I'm ready to take your money." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's how he feels. He knows my shoulder's not very good, and he doesn't care. And bring your wallet." And he
You,
means it.
you got to go down there and do that though. Yeah, when he hurled the ball over the wall at Kauffman, obviously being a big baseball guy, you are respecting the game. What are you saying to him, and what did you make of that whole situation?
Oh man, when I walk to the mound, I have my head down, and I don't know why. It's probably just the way I walk. And I thought I saw what I saw, and I remember I said to him, like, what the f is wrong with you? And he started to explain, and I think he realized right away that he really screwed up. And I kind of shooed him away, and I said, "I'll meet you in the clubhouse." And I always waited on the mound, and you hand the ball to the next pitcher. And Tyler Clippard was coming in, and I love Clip. He's an old veteran guy, and he did it right. And I gave the ball to our catcher, and I said, "Here, give this ball to Clip." And I, I went in after Trevor, and we went down in the tunnel, and I was yelling at him so hard, so loud, and so much that I started getting a pain going down my neck that I just stopped and walked away because I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Because I looked at Trevor, and Trevor's looking at me like, "Are you done, or is there more?" And I just couldn't. I thought I was going to have a heart attack, so I just walked away and went up to the dugout. The funny part was when the inning was over, Clippard comes in, and I'm not in a good place, and he walks right up to me and he goes, "Skip, I think he had something left." And I didn't want to laugh, but I had to.
Was anyone talking to him in the dugout or clubhouse after that incident, or no?
I was in the
I
dugout. I didn't follow him up to clubhouse. I don't know.
I think Lindor got him pretty good, which that was a kind of a growing moment for Frankie, because I
Hmm.
remember the game was over. I'm trying to figure out how to handle this. And I heard Lindor out there. I thought, okay, just let it go. He'll take care of it.
Yeah, Frankie grew into a good leader. I feel like that was probably one of those growing up moments for him. Like you said, going from being the Mr. Smile, the kid, to having to command a room a little bit.
And this, Clubs, as a manager, if you do too much, you're over managing or you're panicking. If you can get the right players to lead, let them go. And I was so fortunate along the way, and you played with them, guys like Giambi, Napoli. Man, you're crazy not to let them have carte blanche in the room and to use their wisdom, because I can't tell you how many times Giambi would tell me during game, I got it. And I'd be like, okay, good. And it's, you're considered a great teammate when you handle those things. And as a manager, like I said, if you do it too much, you're overdoing it. So having those guys, man, you take advantage of it.
Do you feel like that dynamic is a little bit undervalued now
Oh,
with all the information on how they assess players? Somebody like a Jason Giambi for us in Cleveland probably wouldn't have been made that roster nowadays.
I guess the way I would answer it is if you're a smart baseball person, you don't undervalue it. Just because you can't put a number to it doesn't mean it's not meaningful. I mean, I don't think it should be a shock that the only year we had Napoli was the year that we probably overachieved more than we ever should have. They're so valuable. Guys like Michael Brantley. I can't believe I'm going to say it, but Josh Tomlin. I mean, it's just they're worth their weight in gold, and it, for me, it makes the job fun. I mean, that's, like say, guys earn your trust, turn them loose and let them go play. and just pat them on the back.
So clubs don't value that type of stuff now?
Well, I think some teams do. I think the
Certain
good
ones do, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's some places where they don't. It's just numbers, and I think you're missing the boat.
That leads me into my question. I would say, who has won the prank war between you and Cashy?
Well,
There's some good ones in there.
I think me, because we quit after a while because all of a sudden they got good, and so I kind of quit while we were ahead. That to me, Klubs, that's the fun part of baseball. Um, we were telling a story the other day. Our first year in Cleveland, Santana did something. He was catching then, and I had put my arm around Santana, and I said, "Carlos, that's not really what we want to do in that situation." And he looked at me when he walked away, and he said, "Do you not remember that I did the same thing in Boston? And you grabbed me by the front of the shirt and said, 'Hey, dumbass, don't ever do that again.'" And we laughed like crazy, but that's just the relationship we had.
Who's a hitter you feared most? Well, it could be a pitcher. I guess the player you feared most as a manager.
I'll tell you, and I went back when had those monster games with the Yankees, Jason Giambi, because you could throw the ball 1,000 and he could get to it. And in that short porch in right field, it just, him and Gary Sheffield would take swings and it would scare me. And I'd think he'd foul a ball off and I'd be like, oh my God. Like it just, they didn't just beat you, they intimidated you.
You got one?
Yeah, you have one?
No, go for it.
All right, last question for you. Favorite spot in Tucson?
Favorite spot in Tucson? Well, it burned down. It was Dooley's. But, it's any golf course. Like, I love playing new golf courses. Like, we'll go out to Dove Mountain and play. And believe me, when I play, I see every part of the course. I see the left rough, the right rough. But I love going to see new courses. So that would be, again, that's just my favorite thing. I love it.
Well, you said you drive by dirt bags twice a week. So next time I'm in Tucson, I might need to hit you up and see if you'll come get a dirt burger with me and a beer.
I'm like I said, I'm America's guest. So just let me know.
When's the last time you've been in that place?
Oh my God. College. I drive by anymore. When you're 66 years old, you can't go into dirt bags.
All right. Well, we might need to test it out. We appreciate you joining us. 2-time world champion, 3-time manager of the year, Arizona Wildcat for life. Bear down, Terry Francona.
Oh, guys,
thanks, Tito.
Talking to both of you. It was fun. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tito. Appreciate it.
All right. See you guys.